This session is going to be 45 minutes, 40 minutes or so. So we will get started and kick off. And before we do, I want to introduce our fabulous expert, Kevin Dorsey, often known as KD. Like I said, he is based in Austin. He currently serves as the CRO of Finally. He's built multiple over 100 million ARR organizations and has served as an executive at companies such as Patient Pop, Service Titan, Snack Nation. He has over 13 years of experience building startup sales teams and having trained over 1,500 sales reps. KD has now recently founded a sales leadership accelerator, which is a training program for current and aspiring sales leaders. So we are very fortunate today that he is giving us an exclusive peek behind some of those frameworks. And we had Ralph Barcy, an incredible sales leader, on the podcast not too long ago, and he really emphasized the need and necessity and importance of systems. There is no one better than KD to really break down those systems here. So KD, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And am I following Barcy? I don't want to follow Barcy. That is a not fair thing to have to do. He is amazing. So, but no, I appreciate you having me. Appreciate everyone jumping on, taking time out of their days here. So really excited to dive into this. And actually, just to make sure, can everyone read my chicken scratch? Can you give me like a thumbs up in the chat? Like you can see the writing in the background here. I just want to make sure. Otherwise, I'll just be talking to myself the whole time here. So I just want to make sure people can see it. There we go. All right, cool. We can see. Cool, y'all. Well, we're going to dive in here because at the end of the day, as leaders, we need a system too. Right. There are plenty of sales methodologies out there. There's you got Medic, Medpick, Spiced, Challenger, Bant, Spin, Sandler, Command the Message. Like you've got all these sales methodologies, but there's not a lot of leadership methodologies. And so what I'm going to break down for y'all is the full flow that I approach my orgs from, my teams from, how I actually lead my teams. Right. And so I think that's one thing that I'm still pretty proud of, to be honest, right now, is I'm still in it. Like what I'm about to teach y'all is not something I did. It's not something that happened. It's quite literally what I am doing right now within my own orgs to really transform them. So as we do this, I always start these off with the same two asks. Right? I used to call these ground rules, and then I realized I'm not your boss and I'm not your dad, so I can't give you rules, right? But my asks in this session is, first of all, to the best of your ability, be here with me. This is going to be 40 minutes. We are going to fly, right? But be here with me in this session, right? This 40 minutes to grow as a leader, to grow as a leader of leaders, right? And my second is engagement. I am going to ask y'all a lot of questions in this session. What do you think I hope to see happening in the chat when I ask a question? And this is your first test, so we'll see how this goes. Otherwise, it'll just be me and Sophie the whole time. We'll see.
Hey, not the worst thing in the world.
There we go. It wouldn't be
But
the
always
way
chop it up with you, KD.
Absolutely. I'd kick it with you, right? So I want the responses, the engagement. That's what makes it worth being here live. All right. So here we go, y'all. This is where it all starts. I'm going to break down this flow. I'm going to show y'all some examples and we're going to get after it. And the first thing that I need us to understand as leaders is this right here. Okay. Results. All right. We all want to improve results. What I need us to realize very quickly is you cannot change results. Where do results live? Past, present, or future? Where do results live? Past, present, or future, right? They live in the past. That's quite literally what makes it a result, right? But as leaders, we tend to use very results-based language with our people. Drop a 1 in the chat for me if you've ever said to your team, we need more deals. Anybody? Anybody ever say we need more deals? What about we need more pipeline? We just go get some more pipeline. What if we need more revenue, more meetings, right? Like we talk very results-based language, when in the reality is the result is already in the past. Y'all would actually be shocked how rarely we talk results in my team meetings, in my one-on-ones and all that, because the results I have on a dashboard, right? It's actually shifting away from results-based language and getting into causal-based language. And that's what the flow is all about today, is if I want to change results, There's a very specific flow that I go through in order to drive it. And actually, I'll just give a quick example here within my own org. So I've been here now for this actually my 6th month. And in this 6th month in this role, one of my sales orgs has already over doubled revenue in 6 months. Doubled revenue. And I'm not talking like $10,000 to $20,000. I'm talking multiple commas. With fewer people and fewer leads, we have doubled results because of this process, right? This is the first thing that I focus on when I go into a company. I'm going to walk y'all through it here. So here's how the flow works. Okay. So when it comes to running a revenue org, the first thing I need us to understand is we can't change a result without first changing a metric. So what we're going to try to do here, and if anyone here is familiar with the movie The Patriot back in the day with Mel Gibson, is there's a line that he drops in that movie, which is aim small, miss small, right? Aim small, miss small. And this has stuck with me ever since I watched that movie because it applies to leadership as well. Where too often we're up here, we're talking about results. Well, to do that, I need to identify, well, what metric has to change in order to improve the results, right? So you think we have revenue as a result, we have pipeline as a result. Let's do churn as a result. What are some of the key revenue metrics? Meaning if this metric improves, revenue goes up. What are some of the key metrics for revenue? If this metric improves, revenue goes up. What would some of those metrics be? Let's see if we can drop some in the chat here. What would be an example of a metric improving that leads to more revenue? And I'll throw one out as an example, right? ACV, right? If ACV goes up, revenue goes up. There we go. Number of deals. If number of deals goes up, revenue goes up. There we go. Sophie nailed it. Close won rate, right? What's that win rate? Right? If the win rate goes up, right? Revenue goes up. Velocity, right? Sales cycle. Okay. Now, interestingly enough, sales cycle is actually an example of what's called a layered metric because velocity is when it closes, right? It's not how much closes. So velocity is a great layered metric because what do we know? The longer the deal goes, what other metric tends to come down? The longer a deal goes, close rate tends to come down. So it's a layered metric, right? Like I'll take a 6-month yes consistently if I know that's where it's at versus a 4-month no, but it's the velocity. And then you have pipeline volume and pipeline value. And this is very, very important to remember the difference here, y'all. Real quick, if anyone here has pipeline coverage metrics, put in the chat what your pipeline coverage is. Is it 3x? Is it 4x? Like we love to throw out pipeline coverage numbers, right? 3x coverage, 4x coverage, right? We got a 3x coverage, okay? Here's things that you got to remember. Pipeline coverage is a value metric, meaning if my quota is 100K, then I want to see 300K in pipeline, right? 3x coverage. The problem is close rate is a volume metric, meaning I close 3 out of 10. So here's where people get coverage wrong all the time. Let's say I have 300K in coverage. I have 4 ops and my close rate's 20%. Y'all didn't know it was going to be math today. I don't know if she warned you, but yeah, we're mathing it up a little bit. How many deals do I get out of 4? How many deals do I get out of 4 if my close rate's 20%? Oh, I freeze? No, Sophie froze.
Nope, I froze. You're good.
Okay. I was like, oh shoot.
You said math, and I had to.
I
make
saw it. I was like, I scared you away.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Right. Well, 20% of 4 is 0.8. I don't get a deal out of this, even if I have 300K in coverage. So we have to make sure that we have enough opportunities, not just the coverage. Okay. But now let's move to pipeline. What are the pipeline metrics? Meaning if this metric improves, pipeline improves. If these metrics improve, pipeline goes up. What would some of those metrics be? Because we can't just go get pipeline. As a result, we have to change a metric. What would be an example of a pipeline metric that would need to improve in order for pipeline to go up? There we go. So MQL conversion, right? What's that conversion rate? What's that SQL accepted rate? Okay. Activity. This is where dials, emails come in. Open rates, connect rates, conversation conversion rate. There are actually significantly more pipeline metrics than there are revenue metrics. Yeah, revenue leaders, we tend to focus over here, when in reality, there's a lot of focus that needs to go here, right, in order to drive it. What about churn? I don't know if we have any CS leaders on here right now, but all right, I want churn to go down. What are the metrics behind churn? What are if this metric improves, churn improves? What are some of the metrics behind churn? Okay. Look at things like usage and adoption, okay, expansion. Okay. We could look
Okay,
at
Greg
things
just
like
got that.
QBRs. What'd you say?
Oh, I was going to say, Greg said that at the exact same timing. So Greg
Right.
nailed it there.
Okay. Right. We've got LTV, okay, renewal rate. Right. Like, so do you see what we're doing here, y'all? Is first of all, if I'm trying to drive a result, I need to identify the metric. And when I look at my orgs, you need to know the number one metric per rep, team, and org. It is a manager's job to know the number one metric per rep. It's the director's job to know it for the team, and it's the CRO VP for the org. What is the number one metric for each one of these categories? And this is incredibly important because too often we coach to the average. We don't coach to the individual, right? Greg, it might be ACV. Arena, it might be close rate. Sophie, it might be pipeline volume. We need to know at the individual level the number one metric. But then also at the org level, what's the I try to change a metric a quarter. A metric, singular. Why do you think I focus on one per quarter, y'all? This is very, very important. Where am I trying to solve it allers? Who out there tries to solve it all? You're like, I'm gonna increase close rate, increase ACV, increase pipeline volume, increase pipeline value, increase my SQL rate. Focus on one at a time, which is why we need to know the number one metric. So one, we're starting to aim smaller. This is why we don't talk results that much. When I sit down with a manager, my question is, what's the number one metric per rep? Okay, Sophie's behind. Which metric is behind? The result is the impact of a metric. Which metric is behind? If my org is missing the number, which metric is causing it? Is it because close rate's low? Is it because the ACV is low? I need to identify the metric. This is the first step in the flow. Well, once we know the metric, can I just go tell my team to improve their close rate? Let's say I figured out the close rate's low. I can't just go say, okay, we need to improve the close rate. So I can't change a result without changing a metric. I can't change a metric without changing something in Bipsy. So Bipsy is the leadership methodology that I teach, right? So this is this leadership process, the leadership acronym. Because again, we got medic, medpic, all that for sellers. We need something for us as leaders. And Bipsy is that. So the B in Bipsy stands for behaviors, meaning what is something 100% in a rep's control that if they did would positively impact the metric. So for example, let's use close rate. Let's use close rate. What are things 100% in a rep's control that if they did would improve close rate? 100% in a rep's control. And actually, I love this one from Greg, time management. Greg, can you be even more specific? Because time management is a concept. What's a behavior behind time management? There we go, time blocking. Specificity here. I love that from Justin, replying to a lead within 5 minutes. That is in a rep's control to do. Follow-up is in a rep's control to do. Touches per account in pipeline is in control to do. Reaching out for multi-threading is in their control. So the first thing I'm looking at is it behavioral, right? Is the metric low because of a behavior? Are we doing the things in our control? The next letter is I, and I stands for issue diagnosis. Would help if I could spell. issue diagnosis. Okay. This right here, a book, y'all, that changed my leadership life. If you haven't read it, it's called the Checklist Manifesto. Checklist Manifesto. If you have not read it, go read it. It changed my leadership life because the whole concept is how checklists save lives. It was written by a surgeon, not by a business person, not by a seller, by a surgeon, right? And how when they introduced checklists into hospitals, death rates went down. Infection rates went down. Time in bed went down, right? If anyone has flown recently, what does a pilot do before every flight? They go through a checklist, right? So the issue diagnosis checklist is what would you look for, right? And leaders, this actually tends to be what we're very good at. Like if I came to you, well, pop quiz for y'all. I come to you and I say a rep has a bad show rate. A rep has a bad show rate. What would you look for? What would you look for? I come to you and I say a rep has a bad show rate. What would you look for to figure out what is going on with that rep? Are they sending reminders on multiple channels? What else would you look for? Someone's got a bad show rate. So you're looking for multi-channel on reminders. What else would you look for if someone has a bad show rate on their meetings? You look at how far out are they booking those meetings? Are they discovering a problem? Are they getting agreement to attend it? Are they sending the calendar invite on the call? Are they getting confirmation of that meeting, right? So what this can look like, and I'll just share this with y'all here real quick, is within my orgs. Can you see this, Sophie? Got me? So within my orgs, metric by metric, here's what we look for. Someone's got a bad close rate. Here's what we look for. Someone's got a bad show rate. Here's what we look for. ACV, meeting set, activity, inbound lead, DM connect rate, DM conversion rate, open rate, response rate. Even this, y'all, even a mental health checklist. If someone seems to be struggling, have we seen a change in behavior? How are they sleeping? Are they taking breaks? Are they doing things that bring them joy? Have you recognized them? Have you had a growth combo? When's the last time, right? It's getting this issue diagnosis out of your head and down on paper, right? Because once it's down on paper, who else can use it? Once it's down on paper, who else can use it? Well, the rep can use it. The manager can use it. It goes across the entire board so we can quickly diagnose what's wrong, right? What is causing the problem that we are seeing? And it makes it quick, very, very quick to go through it. The P in Bipsy is process, right? Do we have a process issue, right? Do we even know what the rep's process is? Right? This is one of my scariest questions I ask in leadership. Do I really know what my people are doing? Like, do I really know what my people are? Do I really understand what's going on in their day to day, especially in fully remote, right? Do we have a process issue? What are the steps, right, to go through this, right? And I love this from Greg. You know what they're supposed to do if you have a documented process. Do we know if they're actually doing the documented process, right? Because there's always that dichotomy too. It's like we got processes for days. Do we know if they're doing it? Because things change, right? So I'm looking, do I have a process issue potentially? Then I get to the S in Bipsy, which stands for skill. Are they good at what they're supposed to be doing? So if you think about close rate, what's a skill behind close rate? What's a skill behind close rate? Meaning if they were better at this, close rate goes up. What's a skill behind close rate? That if this skill improved, close rate would go up. There we go. Good questioning and value mapping. That is a skill, right, around close rate that we could actually work on. Second layer questions in discovery, creating a POV with ROI. These are the skills, right? Now, real quick, drop a 1 in the chat for me if you're a leader of leaders, meaning like you lead managers or you lead directors or you're a leader of leaders by chance. Drop a 1 in there for me if you're a leader of leaders, right? Because hopefully what this can show y'all is how it changes the questions I ask my team. I'm not asking why questions. I'm asking, is it behavioral? What's our issue diagnosis? Is it a process issue or a skill issue, right? I'm narrowing down my questions because it also varies per rep and per team. Maybe one rep's just not doing the right things, or another rep is doing the right things, they're just not good at it yet, right? And so these are the things that we look for to make sure that we know where we actually have to improve. And then we get to the why. The why stands for you as the leader. Are you doing the right things? So we have something in my org called the Did I checklist. The Did I, right? And the Did I checklist is about ownership. Did I do the right things, right? Did I do the right things? And what that looks like is this. So before you can point fingers, before you can blame, you have to look inward first and say, did I, right? So if pipeline was low, did I hit my activity? Did I work enough leads? Did I run all my steps? Did I leverage all channels, right? We're checking in first, did I? Did I demo? Did I follow up? Did I get creative? Did I improve? But here's the key one, the leader. Did I coach them? Did I lay out expectations? Did I run structured one-on-ones? Did I get agreement? Did I recognize? I look here before I ever point a finger at my reps, and my managers have to as well. As did you as the leader do the right things? Because sometimes y'all were the problem. We didn't actually coach, or we did not document. We did not get into a good diagnostic. We did not get the number one metric. We just told them what we wanted. We did not review, right? The did I checklist is for you as the leader as well to make sure am I doing the right things, right? Because I'm sure y'all know this. Anyone here busy by chance? Here just by chance, you got a lot going on right now. Like if anyone's just coasting, like
Nobody.
I'm just coasting. I just do thought leadership. That's all I do, right? Just wake up and draw on scribbly boards. We're busy, which can cause us to miss steps. So now hopefully you can see how we're getting even smaller. We go from the result to the metric to the Bipsy, right? More often than not, the questions I'm asking my manager, what's the number one metric? What's the ID? What's the number one metric? What's the ID? What's the number one metric? What's the ID, the issue diagnosis, and what's causing it? Well, then, if we want to do Bipsy, we have to know the wiggle. This is one of my favorite acronyms. I have a lot of acronyms. This one is by far my favorite. So the wiggle stands for what good looks like. What good looks like. Do we know what good looks like for the behaviors, the process, and the skill? Do we know what good looks like? And here's the wild thing, y'all, is most of y'all do know what good looks like. But if we're honest, where does the wiggle tend to live? For most orgs, where does the wiggle actually live?
The brain.
It lives up here between our ears. It lives up here between some of our reps' ears. It lives out there, and we've never actually captured the wiggle. We talk about this all the time on my teams, is do we actually know what good looks like? Because if we don't, we can't actually drive Bipsy because we don't even know, right? So this is where things like call scorecards, things like pipeline checklists, things like research, right? How are they supposed to research? It's like we got to capture the what good looks like for our team and follow the 4 Ds. I actually posted about this today. The 4 Ds of scale. This is incredibly important. The 4 Ds of scale are define, document, demonstrate, and deliberate practice. I cheated a little bit on that last one, but you get what I'm talking about here. Define, document, demonstrate, deliberate practice, okay? These right here are how you scale greatness. It's how you scale greatness, okay? Every single quarter, we do what's called a scaling greatness exercise, where I assign a metric to a manager, and it is their job to identify who has the number one metric and what is it they do differently. What is it they do? If Sophie has the highest close rate on the team, I want to know, what is she doing differently? What is she doing differently than everybody else, right? Perfect. I tell this story often. So at Patient Pop, for enough, one of my reps, Julia, her ACV was like 36, 37% higher than everybody else on the team, right? 36, 37% higher than everyone else on the team. So we did our scaling greatness exercise. I signed it to Jess Strickland. Jess goes in, like, all right, go tell me what she does differently. Comes back and goes, yo, her process for pricing is different and how she presents it. She presents pricing as a package, not as line items. So instead of like 5K for this and 6K for that, and it was like, here's everything you get, here's everything that it's going to cost, right? So what do you think we did? We defined it. Here's how we do pricing now. We documented it. We wrote it out, the language, the questions, the scripting, and the scorecard. We demonstrated it. We did trainings. We got best practice libraries built, and then we practiced it day in and day out. Any guesses how much ACV went up across that team? We'll see closest to the number here. Julia was 37% higher than everybody else. Any guesses how high we brought up ACV across the entire team by following the 4Ds of what good looks like? See if anyone can guess the number here. So I got a 28 from Greg. Okay, I got a 20 from Sophie. See if there's any other guesses out there right now, right? For the entire org, ACV came up 18%. Mind y'all, I had about 60 closers at that time. Do you know how many millions of dollars we are talking about being generated from one scaling greatness exercise? One scaling greatness exercise. Because as leaders, y'all, if we're honest, where do we tend to put a lot of our focus? What's going well or what's broken? Where do we tend to put a lot of our focus? What's going well or what's broken? And almost always we're focused on what's broken, when in reality, the fastest way to impact an org is how quickly can you identify what good looks like and get it into the 4Ds. Because once we can capture this, this is what raises the whole, what do they say, like, you know, the ocean raises all ships or whatever it is. Like, once I know what good looks like, I can make everybody better at that thing by defining, documenting, demonstrating, and that deliberate practice of it, right? Because also, hopefully y'all have noticed so far, do you notice how I can show you what I'm talking about? Like, I can show you, here is my checklist. Here is my scorecard. Here is my template. Here is the Bipsy, right? I can show it, right? Which is what allows my orgs to run more systematically because we've captured these things, right? So true story right now, actually, I'll take that back because it's not true this week. So you have a board meeting this week. But generally speaking, there is an hour on my calendar every single week with my leadership team called the Weekly Wiggle. The Weekly Wiggle. And what are we doing? We are building out the wiggle for the most important things. We now have call scorecards that we did not have before. We now have pipeline checklists that we did not have before. We now have pipeline management and deal inspection docs that we did not have before. We now have SLAs and expect. Every single week, we sit down and we build, right? Because then all of this flows to the last point that I'll bring up today, which is then to the one-on-one system, right? So this right here, y'all, if you forget everything that we talked about today, but you screenshot this, result to metric, metric to Bipsy, Bipsy to wiggle, wiggle to 4Ds, 4Ds to the one-on-one, this is the leadership system and methodology that I put in place that has let me scale. I mean, I'm at 4 teams now that have crossed over 100 reps. I'm at 3 companies over the 100 million. I'm going for my 3rd unicorn right now. Like, I'm still in this right now, doing this and building this. This is the flow. And I just want to show you how I run one-on-ones as well, because that's where this all comes to work. So in my world, one-on-ones are very structured. They're very structured one-on-one, right? At the top, this is where we have our percentage to goal, the reps key metrics, skill focus. What are they working on? This is where like call recordings and call scorecards go, right? And what their practice plan is. And a micro did I. So at the one, we have a micro did I, right? Micro did I. Did I update my pipeline this week? Did I sort by last activity? Like a micro, right? Like a micro, did I here? And at the bottom, this is where we have our update questions, right? So the updates of like, that could be deal updates. There's almost always a person update. How are they? How is their energy? How is their focus? Any challenges, right? Progress. And then most importantly, what is their plan for the week? What is their plan for the week? What are they actually doing for the week? And this is where it's a little bit different, y'all, is who fills out this doc? Who fills out the one-on-one doc? Who fills out the one-on-one doc? The rep fills out the one-on-one doc, not the manager, the rep. And then here's the next part. When do they fill out the one-on-one doc? When do they fill out the one-on-one doc? Okay. Ideally, it's kind of getting updated throughout the week, but I want you to notice how a shift in question changes the answer. When would you like your reps to be coming up for a plan for the week? When would you like your reps to be coming up with a plan for the week? Friday. So we complete the one-on-one docs Friday afternoon. This is how we wrap up the week, right? We call it the end it and send it. End it, send it, then be gone. This is how we wrap up our week, right? They know where they're at. They know their metrics. They know where they're focused. We've gotten all the key updates that we need to have, right? We've got that all captured. And then this is how we can do this at scale, because the rep one-on-one doc linked to the manager one-on-one doc, which links to the director one-on-one doc, which can lead all the way up to me at any given time. I can jump in. I can see what's happening. I can get a pulse on where I'm at. I love jumping in those docs. Like, what challenges are people running into right now? Is there a pattern there? Who needs to be recognized on the team, right? Like, this flow now is how we can implement Bipsy all the way through. So if we come back here, you cannot change a result without changing a metric. Cannot change a metric without changing something in Bipsy. We can't drive Bipsy. We don't know the wiggle. We can't do the wiggle without the 4Ds. And then the one-on-one is where it all comes together, right? This is the flow that we go through within our teams. And this is where we spend most of our time. Too often, leaders, we're way up here talking about results. I'm spending way more time down here. Once I know the metric, what can I do to establish what good looks like for that metric and follow the 4Ds to actually scale it out? So I know that was a crash course on all of this, right? But one, I saw someone drop it in the chat. I will share these templates with y'all. I'll share the did I checklist with y'all. I'll share the issue diagnosis checklist with you as well, just as something you can take and make your own. I'm happy to share that with everybody that was here to join me live. So I'll share that with Sophie afterwards. But I've got 4 minutes here real quick for questions before I actually have to jump to my own board meeting that I need to drive. So I'm happy to, answer any questions, but hopefully we got some juice from this, y'all. Can I get like a thumbs up or something in there if you got some juice, if you learned something a little bit in there, if this was good? Because I can't see y'all, so I can't tell if you were smiling or angry the whole time. So I have no idea. There we go. I'll take a couple thumbs up, right? That's all I get out of this, is a nice little thumbs up here. And so I'm happy to answer any those. And so yeah, Jason, I'll share the Bipsy, the 4Ds, and the one-on-one templates. I will do that for you. Hell yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you, Katie. Any last questions? We've got about 1 minute left. If anyone does have a lingering question, this has been jam-packed with tactical insight. So this is incredible. Thank you, Katie.
Hell yeah. Awesome, y'all. Well, I appreciate y'all. If you are interested in more on this, this is kind of what I'm teaching in the Sales Leadership Accelerator. give that a look as well. But just thank y'all for being here, because like leaders, we need help too. We need love too in all this. And hopefully you're able to take something from this and implement it into your org. So I appreciate y'all as always. Deuces. We did
Thank
it.
you, Katie. Katie, and where's the best place to find you, should anyone wish? LinkedIn, your new
LinkedIn,
website?
LinkedIn's the best, or salesleadershipaccelerator.com. That would be the second best
Perfect.
place to get in touch.
Perfect. We'll include that as well as any documents that you mentioned sharing in the follow-up. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Have a wonderful day.